Hey, what is going on everyone? My name is Mekkah and I welcome you to this Fire Emblem 3 Houses Blue Lions Maddening Mode low turn count playthrough. My name is Mekkah and I will be guiding you through this adventure chapter by chapter. This run was submitted to me by a fan and I thought it would be fun to provide some commentary and context to it. So the strategies and the recording are not mine, but I do have the perspective of the makers thanks to their notes. So I'm going to give this commentary as if I'm playing it to make it more understandable. Just keep that in mind. This run has strategies made by several good Three Houses players, including but not limited to Rengor, Aggro Incarnate, OCDbox, Palla Emblem, and probably some other people that I'm forgetting right now. Think of this as a piece of collaboration, and I think that's a very healthy perspective to take on low turn counting, or LTCing. It's not a race to the lowest turn count, but a community-driven effort to get the turn count as low as possible. You might be wondering where Don is, why he's not co-commentating this or why he wasn't named, and the reason for that is that Don hasn't played Three Houses and so he doesn't really know much about it, and recording opportunities for me and Don together are few and far between. So we prefer to use the ones we have to record his next 0% growth run instead, and I'm just going to be doing this one solo. Unfortunately, the person who recorded this run doesn't own a capture card, so this was meticulously pieced together using the Switch innate recording system. In case you don't know, the Switch lets you retroactively record and save footage of the last 30 seconds by holding the screenshot button. So what this person did was play every chapter 30 seconds at a time, and once they had every bit recorded, they glued all these 30-second clips together to make for one complete playthrough. So that's why the music is occasionally going to sound like it's skipping a bit every now and then, but hey, that just gives you guys more opportunity to meme about Mekkah quality, so I'm okay with it. Before we get into run itself, we should go over the rules real quick. This playthrough was done on Maddening Mode, as I said before. This is the hardest difficulty in Fire Emblem 3 Houses. We are going to be playing on the Blue Lions route. We're going to visit every single paralogue for that route, and all those turn counts for the paralogues are going to count towards the total. There will not be any auxiliary battles other than the mandatory one in the first month. We are going to make use of the monastery, but I'm not going to include footage of this. Instead, I will mention important benchmarks reached during the monastery and tutoring as they come up while we're playing the chapters, or maybe I'll do a brief introduction when it's necessary. And it kind of goes without saying, but this run does make use of Divine Pulse to make recording easier. With that out of the way, let's get into the prologue. Alright, so in the prologue we have 4 playable characters and an NPC that's not going to do anything. The most important playable characters are Byleth and Dimitri, both with very high base strength. Dimitri is so strong that he can one-shot some enemies using Tempest Lance with the Iron Lance, which is super helpful. Edelgard will be able to do the same on hard mode with Smash and an Iron Axe, but on Maddening Mode she loses out on the 1-hit KO, unfortunately. Byleth is also very strong at base level. Really good strength. And we are going to focus most of this chapter on getting XP to Byleth and Dimitri. They both need to hit level 2 in this chapter so that they can get more strength and speed, which we don't necessarily need right away next chapter, but this way we have to rig less in total. This is not 0% growths, level ups actually matter quite a lot. You'll notice that we're putting Dimitri and Byleth next to each other whenever we can. This builds supports between them, which is nice, but it also makes sure that Dimitri gets use of Byleth's personal skill, which gives him 28% extra experience. It's not a whole lot, but we want to make use of every boost that we can. You'll also notice that whoever's doing the most work during an enemy phase, generally Byleth or Dimitri, is usually using the Iron Sword. That's because both of them have sword prowess, whereas they don't, for example, Byleth doesn't have lance prowess, and that will increase reliability through hit and avoid rates. This turn we made use of 2 forests with Edelgard and Dimitri, which is quite nice. Next turn we won't be so lucky, and we'll actually have to fight some enemies when they're within forests, and that cuts in reliability quite a bit, but unfortunately it's kind of necessary to get the XP that we need. Claude and Edelgard, they're going to do some work to make sure that we get the kills that we need. We have to kill every single enemy in the lower half of the map to make sure that Costas move towards us, and that will cut our turn count by 1, since then we can reach him a turn sooner. But for that we basically have to route this part of the map. So right here, for example, this guy just died to Dimitri as he was fighting with a lance, and he was in the forest. But yeah, Gerald is late to the action because we are basically in position to have Costas to move towards us and then kill him on the next turn. We will have to ignore the 2 bandits that are next to Costas, which will cost us some XP. But so it is, you know, you gotta get the lowest turn count in whatever means you can. So we're setting up mostly Byleth, Claude, and Dimitri in order to reach Costas. Edelgard doesn't really have to do anything anymore. We did make sure to trade the inventories of Claude and Edelgard towards us, so that we can get it all on the next turn on Byleth and Dimitri. Because if you don't get it in this chapter, it's just gone forever. And next chapter we don't have an armory to work with, so it's good to get these items on our characters. So in order to kill Costas, we have to attack him with 3 characters. We're going to use Claude with a curved shot chip, very helpful. Sad we're not going to have it for much longer, but we'll have some other characters with curved shot soon. And then Dimitri takes all his items and gets another chip with the Iron Bow. And then Byleth can finish off with a Wrath Strike. And we just barely managed to get them both to level 2. And Dimitri gets strength and defense, but no speed, unfortunately. But Byleth is going to get a good level up, or else we wouldn't have kept this take. So, yeah, that is Prologue in 5 turns. And the next chapter we're going to take a look at is Chapter 1, which is going to be quite a bit more complicated, because now we actually get to throw students into the mix. So look forward to that. Alright, so here's the mock battle. We only get to use Byleth, Dimitri, and 3 students, so we pick the best 3 for the job. We have to route the whole map, both the Black Eagles and the Golden Deer. On the first turn, we have positioned everyone to counter Dorothea and Lawrence, because we have exactly enough attack to take them all out in the next player phase. So we brought the Dew for his tankiness. He gets +4 defense from his personal skill every time he waits. And occasionally his attack power gets amplified by its rally strength, which is very, very helpful. Not only does that make him stronger, but it also occasionally makes him a little bit faster because it negates a bit of weapon weight, so it stops him from getting doubled occasionally. He's not going to double anything. In fact, you're not going to double anything on this map, period, because the enemies are level 7, whereas we are level 1 and 2. So the students will 1v1 us if we're not careful. So that basically covers the Dew and Annette's. The last student that we deploy is Felix, who is mostly helpful because he's one of the strongest characters we have. His personal skill gives him +5 attack whenever he attacks without using a battalion. So since we don't have battalions right now, it's a free +5 strength that we can use. Together they still need some help, but you know, whatever. We make do with what we can do. So you have 2 routes to go in this chapter. You can either go right and aggro the Black Eagles, and this will also aggro the Golden Deer towards you. This is the route we're taking because it's the lowest turn count. If you want to play it safe, you can go left first, take out Hilda, Claude, and Manuela. This will take a lot longer, but it's also the most safe way to go about it. But if you want to get like the low turn count that we do, then we have to go this route. So Hubert, Edugard, and Ferdinand are pretty scary, but Ferdinand's pretty far away. So we can take our time to counter Hubert with an Iron Bow. This is the Iron Bow that we nicked from Claude. We are actually very limited in what weapons we can use because there's no marketplace armory that we can buy stuff from. So every weapon we have is welcome. But the ones we have do allow us to maximize, for example, linked attacks for higher accuracy, as well as combat arts and stuff like that. So we want to make sure that we make the most of those, because as I said, 1v1 we're just going to get outmatched. So we don't move a whole lot this turn, because if we move someone like too far forward, they would just get ganged upon by Ferdinand, Edugard, and Manuela. Manuela isn't too dangerous because she's using Nosferatu, but Edugard and Ferdinand hit pretty hard. So now that we weakened Ferdinand, we have exactly enough attacks to take out Edugard with 3 hits, and then we can probably 1-shot or 2-shot Ferdinand depending on who we use. Trades with weapons were made accordingly to make sure that we could actually take them out and maximize our linked attacks. This hit is one of the reasons that Byleth wanted to get +1 strength, I do believe, because otherwise she might need like a Crest of Fraudarius proc with Felix to make it through. But if Byleth has the strength proc, then you don't need that. So Dimitri's Tempest Lance takes out Ferdinand, and then only Manuela's alive. We rally strength on the Dew to make sure that he has enough attack speed to not get doubled by Nosferatu. Manuela does like to target him because it doesn't counter and because his res is so low. Or it does actually counter, and he has the Iron Bow. And that's one of the reasons we want her to attack him. So specifics of the positionings on this turn and next couple ones, it's pretty hard to explain them in live commentary like this, or any kind of commentary, but if you want, in the description I include a link to Aggro's original video of this chapter. He posted like a proof of concept of this chapter and a low turn count run of it. So if you want to know like the intricate details about why everyone is placed the way they do, then go ahead and look at that. But the most important parts are highlighted here. So the Dew is like super tanky on this turn. He takes hits from Claude and Hilda, even though he's getting doubled. But the +4 defense really helps him out here. And now we have enough attack power to actually take out basically everyone here, even though we are dealing with only 5 units that only have 4 move. One of the rare occasions where Annette actually attacks instead of rallies. Generally, wind is going to do more than 4 damage, so generally if you can attack with Annette instead of rallying, it tends to be worth it. Rally is most useful when you're rallying someone to kill a boss for like a 1 turn, or if you're just trying to make sure that someone gets in multiple hits on enemy phase with maximized damage. So yeah, that is this chapter completely cleared up. It looked pretty bleak last turn, but you know, we get through. This chapter is actually played in casual mode. If your units die, they don't die permanently, but this chapter was optimized for playing without a death. So that is how we get the 7th turn. Alright, next up we have the auxiliary battle, the only one that we'll be doing because it's forced. Other than that, this run does not do auxiliary battles. So in this map, it's going to be a lot more simple than Chapter 1 because we have more units at our disposal and the enemies are a lot weaker. They're mostly just Chapter 1 enemies or level 1 enemies. They're in fact equally as strong as they are in hard mode, so not a big deal. Some of our units can one round in fact. Dimitri with a couple of strength and speed procs can actually one round enemies. Byleth and Felix also have the capability to do with several weapons, but we also have other means available. We have Annette's Rally again to make someone really strong. In this case, it's going to be Felix. He and Byleth are going to do the most combat. And again, we're making sure to position Byleth so that she gives Felix extra professor experience. We want to get Felix to D-bows, at least for Chapter 2, so that he can use a steel bow and use curved shot. That's going to be very helpful in the next upcoming map due to all the choke points. But for now, he's using whatever he can to one round. In this case, it's an iron sword. We have Sylvain and Ingrid available as well as Ashe. They don't really do very much. Same for Mercedes, who can heal, but like it's not super relevant everywhere, but it helps a little bit. They're mostly just in here to get like the occasional bit of weapon EXP and EXP, but they're not the units we're focusing the most for EXP. So the one cool thing about Ingrid is normally that she can use Tempest Lance, but here you can see her chip with an iron bow. Again, all the positioning is usually in service of either getting professor experience from Byleth, or getting linked attacks for more support, or building supports. That can also be a possibility. So Dimitri, you can see he's on his own, and that's because he is capable of one-rounding or basically killing a lot of enemies just on his own. We also have to level up the Durop mercenaries for a specific point in the next chapter to get it to level 3 basically. And we could do that with Felix because he sees so much combat, but then he loses Lone Wolf and loses 5 attack, which he needs to one-round stuff. So we use it on Dimitri instead because he faces the next most combat. And, you know, he does pretty well with it, gotta say. Durop Mercenaries is a very strong battalion, of course. It has a ton of durability and also a really good gambit in Assault Troop. So it's no surprise that that ends up being a very relevant thing to keep around. It's worth noting, I guess, that Sylvain is not actually... he's part of the Blue Lines. You can recruit him in like every single house at this point. He's going to be very helpful everywhere you go. But in this house, he's probably the worst because he's at level 1. Whereas in other houses, you can recruit him at any level you want. And you can get him at a higher level. And that will get him with some more Axe rank and Lance rank. So this is the worst incarnation of Sylvain, but he's still going to be really useful for Swift Strikes later on. So it is worth using him, even though this is technically his worst appearance. So Felix goes in like really deep here. Again, he's kind of forced to. Because he has to get so much XP and because we have to actually one round pretty much everything on the map here. I do believe this is the turn we actually end up killing everything. I don't think the boss is notably stronger than everyone else, but he does drop a little bit of gold for us to use, which we're kind of desperate for actually. Gold is really useful for getting us more weapons, getting us more forges later on, all that kind of stuff. It is worth noting that we did cooking together in the monastery. I can't show it off in these videos, but we cooked Defense +1 to make sure that people like Dimitri and Felix actually survive without having to dodge anything. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the auxiliary battle. Cleared in 3 turns. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time for Chapter 2. Peace, and goodbye. Strong.